Welcome to our newest series called Two Blokes, a Beer and a Podcast. Now, you may recognize Craig and I from the Ruck Infringer podcast. Don't worry, we're still there. This is just a new series we're trialing on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, to bring you the lighter side of rugby league. We're going to talk off-field stuff. We're going to talk some fun that's been had in rugby league over the years, and we're just going to have a good time. And while we're at it, we might sink some beers and do some reviews and just talk crap. All right, let's get straight into it. Craig, how are you, mate?
Joey, I'm good. Busy day. 3 games of footy with the kids. Boys had a game, I had a game, and then we went out to the Raiders. And we saw Barbie yesterday with the girl. So good weekend,
Oh,
mate.
yeah. I saw something on your socials that the girls didn't end up going. So how was Barbie on your own? Good?
No. So definitely when it would have been weird if I went by myself. But mate, I've just cracked an IPA.
Oh,
I've had
beautiful.
the mug in the freezer, and mate, it feels pretty good.
Well, I've got a Okinawa Dry, which is a Japanese beer. Just about to crack
Lovely.
it. Let's hear that sound. Oh, beautiful.
Oh, nice.
And
Hey,
we're
speaking of cracking it, at the moment the kids are in their room laughing, but we'll see how it goes.
gonna.
They're getting along at the moment.
Well, hey, that's a good start. I'm just going to pour it into my Six
Love
Strings
it, man.
Brewery cup here. Look at the head
Oh,
on that. I call that
oh,
I call that Travis, mate. Travis head right there. And let's try it out. First sip.
yeah. Cheers, Joey.
Cheers. Cheers to new beginnings. Absolutely beautiful stuff. All right, Craig. You said you had a game
Ooh.
today, mate. Did you get a couple of meat pies or what?
Mate, I scored a 50 meter.
Oh,
I
Craigie.
was, and the best thing was the kids were there, and I could hear Lucas was running the water. He was the ball boy.
Yep.
My daughter was on my phone, but because everyone was sort of, Craig, she sort of looked up and they both got to see it. So, but mate, I'm getting old, Joe, because we went to the Raiders game and then I had to stand up because my hammy went on me sitting in the seats. So, mate, I was gone. Oh, I did
Jeez.
so much
And
pain. I haven't showered or anything yet, so I'm looking forward to having a
I,
good hot shower after this.
I was wondering what that smell was. I could smell it through the computer. Uh, what position were you playing out there today?
It's sort of in the middle around that
Yeah,
5'8" area, mate. And
yeah,
then,
beautiful.
yeah,
Love it.
when we had to tackle, I'd make my way out to the wing.
Yeah, scared of the big boys. All right, let's chat a bit of off-field rugby league. Now, obviously, you and we've been around for a bit now, and we've watched our fair share of rugby league. So, I guess the first thing is, what got you into rugby league, mate? Where did your love of the game come from?
Oh, I think it's just something I remember as a kid, Joey. I just loved it as a kid. We moved from Sydney to Canberra when I was little, straight after the '89 grand final, being a Balmain supporter. So that was a bit rough on the old man. But just remember, watching it with the old man,
Yeah,
and annoying him, following him everywhere. And now I'm going through the same thing with my boy. He just talks rugby league 24/7. And that's where it started with dad.
yeah, beautiful. See, mine was my granddad. Obviously, my pop was a massive. He was actually a Balmain supporter as well. Worked on the waterboard, and he actually worked with a lot of the guys that played for Balmain. And he would always share stories with me. A couple of the Balmain boys, they'd sleep in the back of the truck while they're at work because then they'd have to go play a couple of hours later. So he was a big Balmain supporter. But once I came along, and the first game I watched was the 2002 grand final, Roosters and the Warriors, and the Chooks got the win. And I don't know whether Pop supported them there because I was cheering for them or whether he actually was a Roosters fan at that point. But he started going for the Roosters. So, yeah, we went for the same team and that was it. I started studying up on the game, players, and the history of rugby league. And just from that, I just fell in love. I just fell in love with the fast paced nature of the game, just the big hits and the biff and everything that's not really around now. But yeah, mate, that
Yeah.
was just that love of the game. And the best part of rugby league, and you could probably agree, was Thursday nights, mate. There was no footy, but
Oh,
there was a special show
Footy
on
Show.
TV. Take us through it.
Footy Show. So, I mean, what did it go for over 20 years, 22, 23 years or
Yeah,
thereabouts?
23, I think. Well,
Obviously,
23 years was how long Fatty hosted it.
so even longer after he
Yeah.
left, which was a poor decision. But you
Yes.
go back to the early days. So Thursday night, loved it. 9:30 was the Footy Show. Even people who weren't in the rugby league watch the Footy Show.
That's right.
Why was it so successful? Because they weren't professional. You know, it's like you and I on a podcast, really. That's
Oh, sorry.
No, what happened? Sorry.
Oh, I looked at the wrong camera. No, I was just I was just doing a Footy Show.
Just it was just great entertainment, and you know, a show used to go for an hour and a half, and I reckon 30 minutes of it might have been footy at most.
Yeah, mate. I loved the early 2000s era, the era of Matty Johns, the Chief, Sterlo, and Fatty. That was the best era of the Footy Show for me. The characters that Matty Johns brought to that show, Reggie Reagan and Trent the flight attendant, just absolutely hilarious. He's such a funny man.
Changed it.
Oh,
It changed it. Bring back the Biff, the green footy shorts, the Aussie footy shorts, mate. It was hilarious. I remember Robbie Kearns, great player.
Yeah,
he played
Melbourne
for Cronulla,
Storm.
Melbourne, New South Wales. Very unlucky not to win a grand final.
Yeah.
I remember he retired in 2005. And as great players, they do on the Footy Show, they do like a tribute video, and it would be old teammates and everything like that. And then it just shot, and there was a vision of Red Reagan. Robbie, mate, when they told me you were retiring, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe you're still playing, you bludger. It was so good.
I used to love how they could get Reggie anywhere. He'd be at the Logies, and they'd film him at the Logies talking to the celebrities, and he was just so good at that role. I mean, we know Matty Johns over the years and what he's been able to do and what he's accomplished off the field of rugby league, not so much on the field. I mean, was a great player in his own right, but off the field, he's been more successful than he was on. But let's talk about. So we've spoken on the Footy Show and how good that was. Let's talk about some great teams that we've watched over the eras. You know, obviously for me, like the early 2000s, the Roosters, we're in a lot of grand finals. Obviously, we're in the 2000 grand final. We lost to the, I think we played the, oh no, sorry, that was Broncos and Eagles. Sorry.
02, yeah, he's knocked off the Warriors.
02, we knocked off the Warriors. In 03, we were in the grand final again. We lost to the Doggies. Then 04, 03 was Penrith.
You got done by Penrith.
Scotty Sattler tackle.
Doggies.
04 was the Doggies, where we had a big Willie running at us, and then we didn't have any premiership success again. 2010 was our next grand final after that against the Dragons.
Mate, I feel for you, Joey.
Oh yeah.
I'll set up a GoFundMe page.
That would be great, mate. But let's chat on some of those great teams. Obviously, you know, not so much even in our lifetime, but we've seen some current players that are going to be superstars. But I know, like watching highlights of that, you know, you've spoken about it to me before, but like the Raiders team in the early 90s and even the Penrith team in the early 90s. So take us through some of those teams and what you loved about them.
I think the Raiders obviously been a Balmain boy in Canberra. Everyone at school was Raiders because we're talking early to mid 90s in primary school, and Raiders were a force to be reckoned with. You know, they were a powerhouse, and you still see, you know, Brett Mullins. You know, for a bloke who smoked a pack of ciggies a day, he went pretty good, and he's still one of the best highlight clips where Ray Warren. You know, when you think rugby league, especially in the 90s, you think Ray Warren.
Oh, for sure.
And, you know, Mullins, chip and chase, and, you know, scored his try against the Brisbane. But it's hard to look past the Raiders, but then the team just mentioned, obviously, the Brisbane as well. You know, they won 92, 93, around that great era of Tina Turner. And, you know, my eyes, it simply was the best. It was amazing, that era.
Mate. And wasn't she great? I mean, we talk about Tina Turner. Let's chat about entertainment on the footy field, and none better than who you just mentioned, Tina Turner. For me, though, it's got to be That's My Team. That's My Team for me, early 2000s. Be on the couch on a Friday night, you're like, here we go. Friday night footy is on. That's My Team has just started. But what were some of your favourites? I know we had some great ones. We also had some duds, but let's go through a few of them.
Well, for me, Tina Turner, like I just absolutely loved it. And I love the remake. I know it wasn't seen to be too popular, but I actually really enjoyed the remake they did a few years ago. Tina Turner was a great one for me. There was one absolute shocker. I don't know what you would call it, Joey, but there was some old dude doing poetry, and he was like, you know, blow that whistle, ref, send that ball to Glory. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
I've seen it.
Set rugby league back about 10 years.
I have no words for that. That was It was not a good time at all. I think some of the best ones that we've seen. Obviously, that's my team, but even grand finals. Some of the entertainment we've seen over the years has been absolutely outstanding. Some not so much. I remember a couple of years ago, Macklemore was on the grand final, and I really like Macklemore, and I love his music and his songs. But man, he was poor. It was shit.
It was bad, man.
It was just like, all right, I think you need to go back to festivals. But yeah, what was some grand final entertainment that you remember?
I enjoyed. Being Aussie, love local. So seeing Amy Shah a couple of years ago was great.
Oh yeah.
But it's hard to. I think when I think rugby league entertainment, I think of Billy Idol in 2001 Knights first night grand final. Nighttime grand final, Knights versus Eels, and they couldn't get the audio to work. And he come out on a hoverboat, hovercraft, or whatever you want to call them. He come out on that, and they could not get the audio to work. And I think the following year they went a lot more low key, but they got international artist Chris Isaac to come through and does what he does best on his acoustic guitar. And they said to him, "Oh no, mate, you're not going to sing this live. You'll lip sync this one," which is obviously because of what happened the year before.
Yeah.
And he refused to do it, so it delayed by a few minutes, and then he ended up doing the lip syncing, and they he got asked about it 3 weeks later, and he's like, "Yeah, I did." And they said, "Why'd you do it?" And they said, "Because they paid me $1 million to do it, and I did it." I was like, fair enough.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, if I was paid $1 million, I'd do the same thing.
Some shockers, yeah.
It has, mate. Just while we're talking on that, this beer, mate, absolutely terrific. I am a quarter of the way through, and that is a good drop. That was I got this it was like a world-class beer, just a BWS. But yeah, Okinawa Dry, if you get a chance to try it, give it a go. I'm giving that, mate. I'm giving that an 8 out of 10. That's beautiful.
Nice. No, I'm just sitting here with my pale ale. That's always my go-to. But given that this is having a beer on the podcast, I might have to widen my range.
Yeah, I'm a big lager man myself. Don't like a lot of my pales. I don't know what it is. I just sometimes I have a pale and I'm like, oh, don't mind a hazy. Hazy pale is nice. A Pacific ale is good.
Yeah, hazy pale is nice.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty basic when it comes out. I actually don't mind a good stout. I love a Guinness as well. So
yeah, I struggle with stout. I make it sound like I only drink IPA. I don't ever remember refusing a beer when it was offered to me. But I struggle with a stout. A bit too strong.
Yeah, you're a smart man. You never refuse a beer, mate. Well, let's dive into some other off-field stuff. What are some funny moments that you remember watching footy over the years? It could be on the sidelines or something that you've watched and you've just gone, wow, that is strange.
I remember years ago at the Canberra Raiders game, when I say years and years ago, when life was much simpler, the cheer girls were out.
Yep.
And there was this one girl. All the girls were going this way with their routine, and she was going that way. And they would turn left, she would turn right. I can't remember what game it was, what the score was, who won, but I remember that because it was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, mate. The big one that stands out for me was when Russell Packer was at the Warriors and he started pissing on the sideline. Needed the wee and couldn't make it to the toilet. And so he just pulled out the trouser snake and started weeing on the ground. And I thought, that is weird. I mean, Russell Packer, he was a weird cat.
Yep, and of course the Tigers signed him after all of that. So yeah, there you go, and made him our highest paid player at the time. But
yeah, of course.
That's something from the 70s, right? Like, I mean that wasn't too long ago, really, as far as errors go. But yeah, shocking. I remember Kevin Walters, coach of the Broncos. Now, we spoke to his brother a couple of weeks ago on the ruck, but. When he was playing for Queensland, he came running out, and they just did the camera shot on him. He might have even been captain or something, but he just sort of leant to one side and just let one rip, and caught on camera for everyone to see.
Let's go through a few rituals in rugby league. Obviously, you see players do some weird stuff, and some of the interviews that we've had being on the Ruck and Fringe, we've spoke to some players and former players and what they do, but yourself, mate, on a Friday night, if your Tigers are playing, what's your usual ritual?
I wouldn't know so much of any rituals, so to speak, but I remember even playing local footy, there was guys in the team that no played the night before with the missus, no hanky panky the night before. Whereas, yeah, mate, like, please, I'll take it at half time if it was.
That get you up for a game, mate.
But yeah, no, I think for me it was just yogurt and fruit. Just I had to have that.
Nice.
That's all I could eat before a game was yogurt and fruit, and that was all the way from being 12 years old to. I'd say I might have had a cheeseburger, so times have probably changed a little bit. But I mean, the kids went through McDonald's, and I was still that overweight 12-year-old because I ordered for them, and I just had to get myself a cheeseburger on the way to footy. But mate, must have helped.
Yeah, look, mine was always I was a bit weird. As you know, being mates with me, but I had to put my left sock on first. It was always
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Like I'm left-handed and I'm left-footed, so I would be sitting there and it would be left sock on first, then right sock, then left shoe, then right shoe, and I never
Wow,
did it
that's
different.
weird.
Someone said to me one time, they're like, what happens if you do it different? I'm like, I don't even want to test it. Big believer in the
Yeah.
footy gods, mate. Big believer in the footy gods, and yeah, I did not want to test that, but yeah, a bit weird there. But also on a Friday night, if I'm watching footy, you know what the best thing is? Snacks, man. Love a good
Oh yeah.
snack on a Friday night or State of Origin. I think we were talking off air a bit about State of Origin. What are some of your go-to snacks?
Well, go-to snacks in general for me always was Doritos chip and dip.
Beautiful.
Still is at age 38. But Origin night was the best because takeaway for sure. Whether it's
100%.
steak sanger, hot chips, or pizza, whatever it'll be, that was always a thing. Or if the Tigers were on, so back in the 90s, you had free-to-air TV. You only had the one Friday night game and the one Sunday night game. We didn't
Yeah.
have Fox or Galaxy or KO or whatever, things. I think Galaxy was going around at the time, but only the rich people had it. But so we all tried to find that one friend at school so we could go watch the footy with. And the games weren't live back then either, so they're always delayed. But yeah, I remember if Balmain were on, which was rare, it was always takeaway night.
For Origin, for me, it was always hot dogs. Had to be a hot dog.
Nice.
I'm just a big hot dog man. Yeah, I'd have hot dogs. Even recent Origin this year, I said to the wife and the in-laws Origin game too. I said we got to have hot dogs. I need to relive my youth. Forget Ezra hot dog. We got to do it. But it was always sometimes I'd be at my nan and pop's watching it, and Pop would cook up a feed. We'd have party pies and frankfurts, and
nice.
the whole lot, all your footy foods. But yeah, my go-to now, obviously jerky. I eat a lot of Gibson's country style jerky. Not a plug. We are sponsored on the Ruck by them, but I eat a lot of their jerky, and I often have the bag there, and I'm just picking in. But yeah, they start calling me Mark Riddell after that, mate. After I finish a couple of bags. But...
I was just thinking, Joey, that maybe on Origin night, maybe you've been putting your sock on the wrong foot first or something. And that's the reason why New South Wales have struggled over the years.
Yeah, I didn't put it on the foot,
putting
mate.
The work sock on the wrong foot.
That was the issue. I put it on something else, and married life, mate, married life. But
and then the podcast series was over, just like that.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, I can always cut that bit. But yeah, mate, it's snacks were always a good one. I think for me, Origin was definitely the pinnacle, and you'd always have to have the best snacks. I remember a few years ago watching Origin, talking about school, and when I was back at school, we were watching Origin at a friend's house, and a memory came up on my Facebook a couple of years, last week or something, or a couple of weeks back, and it was from this game. Origin played, and I think it was 2012. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it was 2012 series, and we lost. And I literally sat with my head down like this, probably for like 2 hours. And my friend, she just commented on it, and she's like, "Are you all right, mate?" She's like, "You literally sat like that for 2 hours." And for me, Origin, man, the hatred is so strong. Like I'm a lover, not a fighter, and I love everyone, but the hatred I have for Queensland, mate, it's through the veins. Is there
fight for love, Joey?
Exactly, mate. But is there a club yourself that you just love to hate, whether it's locally or watching footy as well?
I mean, go back to Origin, right? Like I love Origin. It's still the pinnacle of Rugby League, but it's not what it once was. In the 90s, the 2000s, that time period that we're talking about, and obviously before that was before our time. But
yeah.
I remember Origin going to school on Wednesday, and everyone was pumped and excited. There was, in Canberra, more New South Wales, but there was still a good bunch of Queenslanders. And if your team lost that night, there was no Facebook or anything back in these days, so no one was texting each other 24/7. If your team lost, you didn't want to go to school the next day.
Yeah.
And there was a colour code, not that many of us followed it. But, you'd rock up in your Queensland jersey. You're allowed to do it if they won, sort of a thing. And yeah, if your state lost, you didn't want to go to school the next day. Or if your state won, you couldn't wait to get there. It was good. So going back to a club level, being a Balmain boy, I don't know, didn't really hate too many clubs, but there was that Manly feel.
Oh,
There was a lot of people that a strong dislike against Manly. I remember that. You had people that either loved them or you hated them. There was no real in between.
Balmain and Manly did have a big history as well. Obviously, dominated a lot in the 80s, both of those teams. So the hatred was definitely there between them.
And Raiders, my old man had a strong dislike to Canberra Raiders because of the '89 grand final, and it was put into me I grew up not liking the Canberra Raiders because I saw them as this horrible team that stole something from us.
Yeah.
Which was I look back now and go, oh, I don't know if that was really the right message to give your dad, but for a long time there, I could not stand the Canberra Raiders, and Dad never let it go. We lost our old man 15 years ago, and I remember at his funeral during his eulogy, I said, "Dad loved the Canberra lifestyle, just not the football team," because he never forgave him. He never forgave him for winning the '89 grand final.
Oh,
and it wasn't they won it. Balmain lost it. They absolutely lost it. I was at a Balmain function a month ago with Blocker, Ciro, who was my favourite player of all time growing up as a kid from Balmain, and Benny Elias, and mate, 30 years on, Joey, they still hurt.
Oh,
they still
for
hurt
sure.
telling that story. Yeah,
for sure. Especially because a player like Paul Sirinen, who did everything in the game, never won a premiership. That's massive.
Yeah,
but never won a comp.
Never won a comp. Well, that whole group, Wayne Pearce, Elias, Blocker.
That's right.
There's some, and they lost the year before in '88. Blocker didn't play because he touched the referee on the head, patted him on the head when he sin binned him, and that was him suspended for a few weeks. But yeah, so Canberra, and it wasn't until I sort of grew up a little bit, I thought, oh no, Canberra's all right actually.
Yeah, not bad.
And you know where I'm at now. I watched the Tigers lose to them today, and at the same time, happy for the Raiders. So
yeah, mate. The Green Machine have always been good. A big hatred of mine, I think, was always the Rabbitohs. Obviously, being a Roosters man, it was the same as you, mate. It got instilled into me when I was a young guy. When I was younger, it wasn't as strong as it is now because you sort of didn't really, like when you're a kid, you're just like, yeah, whatever, like we don't like that team. But as I became a teenager and started really getting into rugby league and as I got older, it was like, nah, if you support the Roosters, you can tip the Bunnies when they're not playing the Roosters, but you never support them. And whenever you see a sticker or a sign, you go, ew. That's what I still do to this day. Even if I drive past a car and it's got a Rabbitohs sticker, I go, look at that, Rhiannon. And she's like, what? And I'm like, Bunny sticker. I
think what's good about that rivalry is that, you look back at the 90s and 2000s, Roosters just dominated them. So it sort of stopped a little bit because Rabbitohs weren't, from an outsider, I'm not a Rooster or a Rabbit, so I've got no emotion at all. But it sort of felt that rivalry wasn't there because Roosters just dominated them anyway. It wasn't until Rabbits got kicked out of the comp, then everyone got behind the Rabbits unless you were a Rooster supporter. They become everyone's second team. So all of a sudden their fan force just, multiplied.
I think it was always because like they would take our players, we would take their players. You look at it, it went back as early as Brian Fletcher. Brian Fletcher was a Rooster. Yeah. Then he joined the Bunnies as captain. Craig Wing was a Rooster. Then he joined the Bunnies. We've seen
Shannon. But he was a Rabbitohs junior.
He was, and then came.
You've been hanging out with Uncle Nick too much. You've been hanging out with Uncle Nick.
That's what I mean, mate. They kept swapping Roosters and Bunnies. So you look at Joseph Sualihi now. Luke Keary, who we've got, was from the Bunnies. Yeah. Angus Crichton. It's sort of
when a Rooster leaves the club, it's one thing, but when you go to the Rabbits or vice versa, it's
I mean,
and I love it. I love
our
it
biggest
from
one,
the sideline watching
Latrell
it.
Mitchell, mate. Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah,
You know, 1-2 comps at the Roosters and then went to the enemy. But anyway, let's chat some more entertainment of rugby league. But before we do, mate, just again this drop halfway there now, mate. I'm getting down. It's going very well. I love your cup. What did you say? What's Steel City?
no, it's just a
Oh,
West
very
Tigers one,
nice.
mate.
West
Yeah, West
Tigers.
Tigers
Love
one.
it.
So
Love
just
it.
looking at the logo, thinking
Yeah.
it's been a rough 20 years.
Do you mix it with a wooden spoon? Is that how you get it all going
That's
or
good. I'll
what?
pay that.
No, mate.
I'll pay that. No,
This is a
I'm
wonderful drop.
3/4 through. Yeah,
Beautiful.
nice.
Love to
I'm
see it.
3/4 through.
The next thing I want to talk on, obviously, as a Tigers man yourself, you've spoken to me off air about how often if the Tigers play, if they start to lose, you like to throw a movie on. What's your go-to movie?
Oh, Joe, everyone knows I love a chick flick, right? I love a good old rom-com. With the way the Tigers have been playing after the last 2 years, I've been watching probably more of them just to sort of pick myself up a little bit. Especially now in bachelor lifestyle. But
Yeah.
oh mate, I can't go past Notting Hill. It's just an all-time
It's a
favorite.
classic, mate.
Joey, I was at a function in Melbourne a few months ago, and this chick was presenting, and she did a line from Notting Hill. Like the majority of the rooms, let's just say 80% of them were female, and she did a line from Notting Hill, and I was like, no one else got it. No one else in this room got it. I was like, fuck.
You were there lip syncing, weren't you? You knew it. As she's saying the line, you're going.
Mate, yeah.
You're saying it as she's going. Nah, I love it, mate. Notting Hill, absolute classic, mate. Mine's got to be when Harry Met Sally. Great film.
Really?
Great
Yeah,
film.
right.
Yeah,
Classic.
just really like it. That or you know what I used to like, and look, I know I hold a big tough boy figure here, but Sleepless in Seattle, mate. Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah.
Mate, old
Great
fashioned,
film.
yeah.
Great film.
Yeah.
Just when you're feeling down, you throw that on and you just get an instant kick, We all love love. Joey loves love. Craig loves love. And yeah, it's just
And when Notting Hill doesn't work, I usually go American Psycho just to really get me get the blood going.
Yeah, that's it. Bit of Chucky, mate. You just you just watch reruns of when the Roosters put 70 points on Tigers last year. I mean, that's American Psycho for you. Yeah, it's
that's so that's normal life now. Yeah.
No, I love it,
used
mate.
to it, yeah.
I love it a lot. Well, that's probably about all we have time for tonight.
Yep. Time to put the kids to bed.
Yeah, put the kids to bed, mate. I'm going to head off myself. I've finished this beer first. Thank you for listening. This is going to go straight up on YouTube as well. There will be audio too. And it's just our new series. We are still part of the Ruck Infringement podcast, trying our series 2 Blokes, a beer and a podcast, be a Sunday Arvo night thing. Still follow us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever else you get your podcasts from. But, mate, it's been really good. First pilot
Thank
episode.
You, mate.
We'll have to think of a catchy name for this episode, maybe Kamikaze or something, because it just went down. But who knows, mate? We'll come up with something. But yeah, thanks, Craig. This is Joey and Craig signing off. Remember, be good to your mum.